Welcome back, everyone, to episode number 11 of Rift with Friends. I am Corey, joined always by my co-host Justin. And today we have a very special guest for you who's been making some waves in the competitive Riftbound scene. Joining us is Bao, fresh off an impressive 8th place finish at the Vancouver, BC Regional Qualifier, battling through 1,800 competitors. And the majority of these competitors for him were actually in the top 500, and a lot of them even in the top 50 of players that he was able to run through. So we're going to dive into the deck choices that he made, the biggest plays that he made through his tournament, some of his matchups, and just kind of run through the general gist of how his run went. Bao, how you doing today, man?
Hey guys. Thanks for having me on. Doing pretty good today.
Good, man. And for those of you who may not know you, do you want to kind of introduce yourself a little bit and how you got into Riftbound? I know you've got some experience with some other games. I checked out your Twitch a little bit, saw you were playing some Hearthstone, some Gwent back in the day. So.
Oh yeah. I'm a local from the Vancouver, Portland area, representing PNW. But a little bit of history about me. I first started playing, I think it was Hearthstone back in the heydays. And then I moved on to Gwent. That was actually my main game. I grinded the crap out of that back in college. I think I was ranked, I was top 10 world at some points in that game.
Jeez, okay.
And that game's actually kind of similar to Riftbound. So maybe that kind of gave me the edge when I first started. But I didn't realize Riftbound was coming out until the day before it came out. So I never played a TCG before, but fell in love with it from the first day.
Yeah, it's a great TCG, and I know you dabbled a little bit in Hearthstone. It looks like you played some League of Legends, so I can assume that you were a League of Legends player and then fell in love with the TCG versus just finding the TCG. Who did you main in League of Legends, and what was kind of your bag?
Yeah, I've been a top laner since, as far as I know. I actually used to play for my collegiate teams, so I was like doing competitive ULOL stuff, Diamond like every season, stuff like that. But I played the Ooga Booga champs, so like Jax, Garen, which is kind of sad because they've been done pretty kind of dirty in Riftbound so far.
Yeah, I think a lot of the junglers are not showcased in the best light so far in Riftbound. I mean, I feel like they could be more scary monsters than they should be, and same with top laners. So I hope they give like junglers and top laners a little bit more love in the next coming sets.
We'll be able to see Renekton and Nasus, aka Susan, coming out from that set. So that'll be interesting to see how they maneuver through those. So you're very big in the Portland, Vancouver, Washington scene, Pacific Northwest area. And you've been dominating the local scene for quite a while. We haven't seen you at some of these other larger events for these regional qualifiers. So what was the transition from dominating the local scene into going to the regional qualifier, and what made you want to make that transition, and what made you feel like you were ready for that?
I always been super competitive, so playing at a higher level tournament has always been a goal of mine. But I also get really nervous in person. I think we had a SCG con here back. It was like a 10K, I think, and that was my first big tournament, and I was shaking and super nervous. I think that was for set one, and that was and I eventually went like 3-8 in that tournament, which was just all nerves and stuff. So Vancouver it's actually my third big tournament. I went to Vegas. I tried to get Yasuo best of, but I went like 3-5 for that one. So I was like, all right, time to just play a meta champ and get top 64, because that was eventually my goal for this tournament. It's just so I can go to the championship and eventually win that one, hopefully.
So what's going to be your next kind of transition? Are you going to be going to Hartford? Are you headed to LA? I guess what's your next big stop?
Yeah, I'll go to LA. That's my next big stop. I have some of my closest friends live there,
Okay.
so it'd be kind of killing two birds, one stone.
Yeah, for sure. That's always nice when you can do that. So we heard that you were kind of on the Yasuo for a little bit. Was there any other decks that you were poking around with before Vancouver? What made you land on Irelia specifically?
Yeah, I kind of played every deck that was meta. So LeBlanc, I got Aurora, Sivir, and MF, some little testing down in the locals. But I eventually landed on Irelia because that was the deck I was most comfortable with. I played a lot of it in set 2 near the end, after Draven got banned, Miracle Draven. Um, so, and I think I had a really good matchup. I was looking at all the stats and just kind of jamming games inside my head, doing simulations. Uh, and I was like, oh, Irelia is actually really good against like most of these matchups, except for I think E. That one was rough, but
Yeah, I think Yi's probably one of the tougher matchups. The win rate's not too great. Yi's just a lot safer, and because they play like similar spells as you, they can kind of match your pace. But I agree. I think Aurelia, Yi, and Diana are probably like the three really good picks. I mean, we can throw Sivir, MF in there too, but I'm not a super fan of Aurora when you have to smash through a big tournament. But yeah, I personally love Aurelia too. I think she just has a lot to offer, especially if you can protect the queen. So
yeah. And I think for I was when I was testing Aurora in the locals, I the only games I've lost, like in all set 3 in locals, was when I was on Aurora, and when they would we would draw game 3 and we would roll for it, and I would lose the dice roll, and that's like I was like, oh, this deck is way too slow.
yeah, very much so. You have to kind of, especially if you're not going first, you always kind of feel like you're a little behind. And then I think the hardest part for me is like with Aurora, if you draw poorly, it just feels so bad versus like when I play Aurelia, the draw, even if I have a horrible draw, it doesn't feel terrible. I usually can get there pretty quick or find a way to get online versus Aurora only has one engine that you're trying to get online, which is a little rough.
Yeah.
Um, Going into Vancouver, kind of what was your expectation? Were you trying to play just for best of? Were you really trying to top 8? Kind of what did you kind of envision going in?
I think envisionally going in, I was just hoping to get top 64. Um, I'm not sure what the competition was like at the higher levels there and more of the top cuts, and I was just really hoping for a invite to the championship.
Yeah, we've heard a little bit about the invites to the next kind of major. There's not a whole lot of details about it just yet, but it sounds like it's going to be hopefully happening. So a lot of players have been saying the wait to get that invite to the next event is kind of big now. So we'll see what kind of more information comes out after we get through like regional qualifiers. Maybe there's worlds by the end of the year or maybe beginning of next year. That would be kind of nice.
Yeah, that I think that'll be close to the beginning of next year. If not, probably the end of like what they would consider the winter split. Maybe similar to some of their other major tournaments. Maybe not clashing exactly when those tournaments are happening, but maybe right around the same time. Did you expect the meta to shape up um, a certain way, or did anything surprise you when you were kind of running in through the top decks?
I don't think anything really surprised me. I expected a lot of Irelia's because she just won Sydney, and LeBlanc was doing really well in some like the non regional qualifier tournaments. So I was seeing a lot of LeBlanc, but I was shocked at how LeBlanc did in the top 8. It seems like everyone was building Gust and a bunch of purple spells just to counter it. So that's probably why I didn't do so well. Um, but that was the other deck I was considering when I was first doing my considering which one to bring to Vancouver.
Yeah, it always surprises me how little Irelia is being played. And again, I think for me, it's like people are playing Master Yi because Master Yi feels safe. Like it's easy to play
Strap on
Yi.
that helmet, man.
Yeah. You have a lot of safeguards where it's like Irelia, you're kind of on an island and it does take a very skilled pilot. And I think LeBlanc's similar in the fashion where people want to play it, but they feel like it's clunky. They don't always know the lines. They don't feel comfortable with it. It can be a little bit harder to navigate versus some of these more brawlier decks that we're starting to see kind of pop up. So I am genuinely surprised that there's not more Aurelia, with Aurelia having, other than Draven in the first couple of sets, having the most played ability right now. She is one of the higher champs that has the win rate, but again, we're not seeing a massive amount, at least on the western side of Aurelia. I know in overseas we're seeing quite a bit of Aurelia still. Um, with your local groups, do you have any players that you kind of test with? Do you have like a pod? Or you kind of just smash in locals? And then if you do got a group, kind of what does that look like? And how did you guys kind of prep for Vancouver?
I don't really have like people to like play competitively against around here. Um, I didn't really do any practice or anything like that with local groups for this tournament. Um, I think I was just going to Nexus nights just to have some fun. But usually I would say it's not the most competitive setting, obviously. So, um, don't think I played against any of the meta decks. So like, I think my first time playing E was in top 8. My first time playing like Fiora, on not Vex, Poppy, some of the decks I played against on my way in Vancouver was I just never got practice against those. But
Yeah, it can be hard, and I think that's kind of, especially for somebody who's trying to chase a higher competitive level. Like when you go to Nexus nights, it's like you could play some jank deck, or you could end up playing against a top 8 deck, but it's kind of few and far between. So it's kind of hard to use Nexus nights for competitive play. Do you smash any online games at all, or are you kind of just personal brewing right now?
yeah, so I think it was the Friday before Vancouver, or sorry, the Friday, the week before Vancouver regionals. I was like, okay, I really need practice. So I started trying online play for the first time. So I got Rift Atlas because it looked a lot easier than TCGA. And I was just jamming games on there. I was doing best of ones. And I think that helped a lot. Except I was also just running into non-meta decks on there too for some reason. So I don't know what this. Yeah, I think um just finding quality matchups is kind of hard, but that
Yeah,
is what it is, right?
Corey's aware too. There's a lot of times we'll hop on one of those platforms and he'll just have his champion up, or I'll just pull out Aurelia, and then like the moment they see Aurelia abandoned hall, they're like, I'm out, or they'll just DC, and it's just like, come on, guys. I wish there was more of a penalty like there is like with League when you dodge a game, but
Yeah.
there's really not for the online matchup community just yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, luckily there's a few dedicated servers. I mean, we do have Runes and Rift that has a online ladder for ranked, and then our Discord Rift with Friends also has a ranked ladder. It's a lot smaller. We're hoping to get it kind of going. And then coming up July 11th, we're actually going to be hosting a online cash tournament that's going to be sponsored by our LGS Orb Sports Cards. So you guys stay tuned for that. So that's going to be sent out. We're going to put out advertising. You'll be able to purchase tickets through Orb's website, actually. And that'll be a cool way to have some nice, maybe a little bit more competitive nature gameplay through that. But we're hoping to do that once a month coming up the next few months starting in July. So watch out for that. What was your toughest match of the day in Vancouver?
I had a lot of close calls. I think especially against some of the Irelia players, those matchups are like just down to the wire. We would be like in late game on like turn 9 and just have 4 runes each, just fighting each other with our scuttles. But I think my hardest matchup was actually my last match on day 1 against this Annie player. I think it's Gankra. I don't know how to say the name.
Yeah.
But they I think they were one of Prismatic's friends or something, and they were really good on Annie. And they were doing things that I didn't think it was possible, and it was just a really fun matchup. And a lot of because Annie has a lot of combat tricks. She's purple, I'm purple, so it was just really difficult trying to navigate that, and with all the ambush units too.
Yeah, and you played back-to-back Irelia matches, back-to-back Teemo, and you're not wrong. We've been kind of playtesting a little bit of Annie as well, and Annie is surprisingly good. I'm honestly shocked we don't see more Annie, especially with the ability to ready 2 runes at the end of your turn. And then there are a lot of combat tricks that just people don't expect or lines of play. I know you and I got to play a little bit at the Nexus Night recently, and it's a tough matchup. It can swing wide. It's got spell ability. Like it's a very, very good deck. So I'm happy to see that you're kind of testing that out and seeing it. I hope we see a little bit more Annie in the pro scene.
I think that would be really fun to see. Was there a specific moment that really set the stage for you going into the top 8, where once you got there, what was going through your head? Was there a shift in mentality? How was it just kind of breaking through, and when were you like, holy crap, I might be able to actually do this?
Yeah, and were you like checking the stat page throughout the entire event, or you just kind of running it?
I don't really know how the tournament matchmaking stuff works, so I didn't really check the stats. But I thought I had a good chance going in when I went 8-0 after day 1, surprisingly. But I lost my first 2 games in day 2, and I thought I was just out of contention. So I honestly didn't even expect to lock in top 8. I didn't even know I was top 8 until they announced it on the speaker. Because I was getting ready to leave with my friends to go get K barbecue, and so we're just sitting there in the tables, and they just started announcing that people were like, "Oh, okay, whatever." And then the last one, they're like, "Sen Bao Yu," which is my legal name, and everyone just like stopped for a moment. I was just standing there like, wait, what? And we just went crazy because none of us expected me to get top 8 out of nowhere like that.
Yeah, I think it was really, really cool because I saw the discords just start blowing up. There was like 3 or 4 discords that like from Orbs to the Portland community. There's quite a few, and everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, Bao made it!" And everyone's like, "Oh, we can't wait to see feature." And then we were getting updates from players that were actually at the event because I think there was about a 30-minute delay from like what we were seeing on screen to like what was happening at the event. So we had like local players that were like, "Oh my gosh, Bao made it. Hopefully we get to see him on TV." So we were really, really hoping to see you in that top 8. Um, so once you kind of like got to top 8, is there like a different mindset you have going into that? Is it just kind of the same as normal? Talk to like Prismaticism, and he talks about getting to like a plateau. Like once you get to top 8, it kind of like resets your brain, but now it's like a whole different grind because you're trying to get from this plateau to the final mountaintop. Did you kind of experience any of that, or were you kind of cool headed once you kind of settled in?
I think yeah, Prismatic Strider. Well, I think my mindset was completely just reset after that, which might or might not have been a good thing. Because I think in my last match I was just making a lot of mistakes. I don't think maybe getting top 8 wasn't. I didn't expect it, so I was already checked out by then. Um, so when I was actually reviewing my game my last game in my mind, the day or two afterwards, just because I was making so many bad plays, looking back on it, that I think maybe I was just mentally getting top eight was just so mentally shocking that I just couldn't handle it or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's your first time really there on the big stage, and especially if you do end up getting like feature matches on the spotlights, or you start to see the crowds around you. I think it's a whole different mentality. You're not necessarily in your comfort zone anymore, and you're obviously grinding through 8 to 12 hour days, so it's like it's a little mentally taxing. Speaking of like VOD reviews and kind of playing stuff back in your head, is there any patterns you use to take notes while you're in the game? And then how do you digest your games kind of after a big event? Do you kind of review it right away? Do you kind of just like stew on it for a couple of days and just kind of replay the stuff over in your head? How do you kind of take notes and go through that?
I kind of stew on it right after the game finishes, especially if I know that I made an obvious glaring mistake, or or if I should have played the sequence differently or anything like that. So I replay it and just think about it a lot, and I think that helps me memorize exactly what not to do again next time. Um, and especially like I mentioned for the top eight game, I was thinking about it for like 2 days, just thinking about all the different things I could have done different, and that helped a lot. With a bunch of matchups I had later on in Rift Atlas. So
Yeah, it's definitely hard. Do you have any special way that you take notes while you're in games? I know some players just don't really care. Some players are like, "Oh, conquered here, conquered there, misplay here." Do you have any, I guess, special way you take notes, or you just kind of pen and paper and just take and score?
yeah, I kind of just pen and paper take score. I was actually so underprepared because I didn't bring a notepad. I didn't bring any dices. I didn't bring a mat. Like I just I'm not
Just
used
raw
to.
dog the event.
Yeah, I'm not used to doing the in person stuff. Um, cause and I was just trying my best to write down notes, conquer stuff like that.
Good, man.
Yeah.
Good. Well, let's dive a little bit into kind of your deck here. Kind of, we'll go through maybe kind of worked really well for you, what didn't really work well for you on the deck list, and then maybe you can talk a little bit about your sideboard. I think there's some fun cards in there. Like, I think a lot of people don't understand the Angler Beast and why that's kind of used and stuff like that. So, let's hop into that a little bit and maybe go through your main deck and then hop into a little bit of sideboard here. So it looks like you have standard on the main deck, right? You see that pretty well, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
I have a pretty standard deck. I think the things that are really different from the usual Irelias are that I'm running 2 copies of Lonely Poro and 2 copies of Scuttle Crab. Um, they both, and then only 1 copy of GA. Some people like to run 3. I think GA is not that good in the current meta, so I'm running 2 Zonias instead.
Yeah, and I think you hit on some good points there. I think the biggest differences I see are you're either running Tide Turners or Lonely Poros, or you're running GA versus Zonias. Personally, I think the Zonias is a little bit more tactile because you can hide it and there's other ways to kind of cheat it out. But it is interesting to kind of see those are kind of like the two commonalities that change a lot from Aurelia deck to Aurelia deck, right?
Yeah, and I really like. I think the one special advantage that the Zania build has is that you can hide it with your death nail units, and then after they die, you can reveal it and use that for your bigger units instead afterwards. And that accelerates your Irelia game so much faster than because you're protecting her at the same time when you're playing her on 5 mana.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I think a lot of players misunderstand kind of that is like you can have Lonely Poro die first, then trigger, and then after that, in response to the Death Knell trigger, you can then reveal Zonias, which then gets saved for later. So you don't necessarily have to use Zonias on, say, a Scuttle Crab or a Lonely Poro that kind of just died preemptively, right? You could, like you said, you can save that more for a higher value target like your Stellar Corn or your Irelia. And then I see you're running Vex too as well, which is kind of a little different. Some players are doing it, some people aren't. So, how well did Vex perform for you?
Vex actually overperformed for me. She really carried some matchups, especially against like Rengar or the red decks. Um, she's a for sure mainstay now in my deck, in the Irelia deck. Um, and I think I had to cut one Stellacorn for her just because I can't have too many 4-drops, and that really, I, I think it feels really good running her.
Yeah, I think that's kind of my personal problem too. Is I have her in the sideboard, but after playing with her a little bit more, it's like you definitely got to make room for her. She buys you time. She gives you kind of this buffer zone to kind of get your plays and lined up. And then a lot of players focus very heavily on trying to deal with the Vex while you're still prepping and getting other things kind of set up. So I like having Vex myself personally in the main board. Do you want to
Well,
kind of go ahead, Corey?
what do you think most players, when they're building their Irelia decks, we just see like little changes here and there? Is it more of a play style thing, or do you think that maybe some players just aren't finding the same value of some of these cards that you picked? But what was the decision making behind why you chose, I guess, these flavor picks over some of the other cards?
Yeah, like the Adaptatron, I think is like the
Yeah,
flavor
like
of the
the
week right now.
Adaptatron is a good one. And then the Angler Beast as well. I was curious as to those two cards specifically.
Yeah, a lot of these cards are kind of meta dependent. So I knew I had Adaptron in the main board just because of how many gear units there are. I think every meta deck right now plays a gear except for what, Diana. I think that's the only one. And the Irelia matchup's really good against her just because all your units have deflect. So so just kind of teching for your worst matchups while kind of um for the whole field. So Angler Beast is in there because my matchup against Victor is really bad. He just kills my Irelia over and over again, and I can't do anything. So that kind of slows down the game from other recruits in there and help me kind of stabilize.
Yeah, it's so crazy because when I play online on the meta decks, it's like Victor is so prevalent on the online matchups. I think like I'm playing a couple of Victors a day at least when I'm playing my matchups versus RIL. I don't necessarily see as many Victors as I feel like I should in competitive play. So I do like the Angler Beast though, because like you said, it's a very rough matchup for us because they can kind of steamroll a little bit and get ahead. And we don't have any crazy board wipes. They have to commit a bunch of units to a battlefield for us to be able to like slowly chip away with them. Um, how often were you bringing in Heart of Dark Ice? How well did that perform? And then do you maybe want to break down a couple of the top meta decks and what you bring out versus what you bring in?
Yeah, so for Hard Dark Ice, that's in there for the E matchup, which I really didn't get to use until my last game. But it's just that little extra might that you can get to help break their helmet, their +2. But then against a lot of but I will also side in like let's say Rebuke. A lot of people don't run not so fast anymore. So instead of siding in, not so fast, which can get defied, I would side in Rebuke, which people really don't expect nowadays. And so I think that's a secretly hidden really good card. And then Vex for the mirror matchup, Adaptatron for Aurora, not so fast for Aurora, just so you can defy for the Elder Dragon triggers, so you can just cancel that out. Gust for all the LeBlancs out there, and Starcrossed for LeBlancs. and mirror matches. One thing about Starcross is that you never want to be the first one to use it, because when they bounce your unit, you just bounce their unit, their other unit with it. So
And there's so much value. I think people underestimate being able to Starcross like your scuttle and being able to like play scuttle, Starcross, play scuttle. Um, I am surprised that you weren't running Fizz. I think a lot of Aurelia players will like live or die by Fizz as well. Is there any? Did you test with Fizz? Did you kind of just not really fall in love with it, or is it just kind of something you decided that the deck doesn't necessarily need with our current meta?
I think I didn't test any with Fizz, but I was reviewing my deck after Vancouver, and I think I would cut one Vanguard for either another 2-drop or Fizz, just as the extra flexibility. Because I think a lot of games I lost, I was reviewing the games I lost, and I lost them because I could not get a 2-drop. Because I only run 4, right? 4 2-drops, and then a GA and a Zanya. So that's not enough 2-drops actually to kind of consistently have a turn 1 play.
Yeah, and that's kind of the hard part with Aurelia. It's like if you're not trying to get something stabilized by like turn 2, turn 3, it feels kind of rough, and like you don't want to necessarily, especially if you're playing first, you don't always get that extra rune to kind of ramp you. If you're kind of on the play, then you can kind of get you can do like a turn 2 Stellacorn. But
Yeah,
yeah, it
and
feels kind of bad.
yeah, and I feel like mostly it just I just need a Starcross target to use on my side. I don't want to bounce a Stellar Core. I don't want to bounce the Irelia for their unit. It's just sometimes you just don't even find it, and it just feels really bad.
Yeah, we've been talking a little bit about the floor and ceiling of a lot of these decks when it comes to the upper echelon of the meta decks. Do you think that Irelia is a easier deck for newer players to get into, or is it one of those decks where it's going to require a lot of skill to get into it, a very higher understanding of the lines that are required of you to play against the wider range of field, I would say, just not even the upper echelon decks, because the deck appears to be so volatile in some aspects? Where is the floor to ceiling of Irelia?
I think I think Irelia is actually a lot easier than a lot of meta decks out there. Diana is really hard. Annie's really hard. LeBlanc has some crazy lines that you got to think through, and you're also gambling at the same time. Lots of triggers for that for LeBlanc. So I really is relatively easy compared to them. The floor's kind of low, I would say. It's just um um it's a good way to learn though about triggers and how you learn the game. That and then I honestly, if there's a new player, I tell them to play E. You know, stick a unit in there. Remember that you have a +2, and you learn a lot about moving units back and forth between boards, when to pull out, when to stay on and hold. I think that's really important concepts to learn for any of the decks that you're playing. So, um, but it really has a lower ceiling too, I would say, because once you know all the tricks, readying her, conquering battlefield, ready your leader, readying again, stuff like that, it's just you know exactly what's gonna happen.
Yeah, I think the hardest part with Aurelia is like learning card management and really to kind of go all in, when to not, when to kind of let your opponent get a couple of points so you can get more prepared. I think a lot of people want to kind of activate Aurelia a little preemptively or kind of go all in a little too soon. And I think that's
Yeah,
kind of one of the harder things for player to learn. But I do think you're very correct. I think if you're trying to learn a deck, Yee's a great place. Just turn them sideways and remember your helmet, and you'll be all
yeah.
right. So, is there anything that people kind of misunderstand about Aurelia, and kind of what separates a good Aurelia player versus like a bad Aurelia player?
I think, like you said, I think the one big thing that separates a good and a bad Irelia is that you just gotta have patience. Uh, don't go in too early. Just develop your board. Drop Irelia and then just pass. Don't equip your boots. Don't go in. Just just let it simmer. It's like being a good cook.
Don't burn the
Yeah,
sauce.
don't burn the sauce. What do you suppose are the most critical errors your opponents make while playing against Irelia? And where do you feel like players could really exploit some weaknesses of the deck?
I, I'm not sure actually. I think it's just um, a lot of players go in. They don't expect or play around her readying herself multiple times. So sometimes you would just think about conquering a battlefield and score a point, but then you lose like a 4 might unit for no reason because I really just drops in, equips boots, goes in, and what can you do after that? You just kind of lose the game from there at that point.
Yeah, I think that's kind of one of the biggest things I've seen is like there's they forget how much she can move, and it's like, oh, Aurelia's kind of trapped over that battlefield. It's like, or she's in base and she can't get over twice. It's like it's very easy for her to get to all three areas very fast. Um, what kind of advice would you give someone attending their first kind of big regional qualifier since you kind of just made the gamut run and kind of really had a West Coast event for you to attend? So if there's a player expecting going down to LA, what kind of advice can you give them?
I don't know. I think just try not be nervous, but that's just gonna happen. Um, just enjoy it. Just enjoy playing against good players. It's so fun. All the matches are so fun. Um, nothing. It's just high quality games the entire day, and just that's what you're there for, right?
Do you talk to a lot of your opponents after the match? Like I know some players will just pick up and kind of scoop and go hang out with their friends, or do you kind of a little bit of like, hey, did you have this or why did you play that when you're playing some of your opponents afterwards?
I try not to talk to my opponent after because personally, I feel I'm like thinking about the game and I feel bad about losing too. So I don't want to like, hey, what if you did this and that, or like, what if this happened? I feel like that just kind of like it's kind of rude. I don't know. Like I just don't want to like uh make them feel bad worse than they already do or anything like that. So
Want to turn the knife a little bit, right? Yeah.
yeah.
If LA was tomorrow, would you register Aurelia again, or would you kind of take another deck into a big regional?
Yeah, I would do it in heartbeat. I think it's so consistent right now, especially with Skullo Crab and Lonely Poro. You just draw your hands most of the time, and there really isn't much that um, you have one bad game here and there, but yeah, it's good. I think it's the most consistent deck right now.
Fair enough. It shows in the obviously the numbers for the top eights that we've seen in recent regional qualifiers. The development in Sydney, Australia. Is there any path that you see yourself taking for like what's the next steps for you in Riftbound? Are you going to be attending Hartford? What can the fans or new fans of Bao expect from you?
Yeah, it's my next one is LA. I'll be for sure going to that one. Hartford's a little too far away, but maybe if I uh, get more and more into Riftbound, the competitive scene. Maybe if I get sponsored, I don't know. I don't know how that works. But if LGS is, hey, what's up, guys? I'll
For
I'll wear
sure.
your jerseys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
At least got
I
to
will
get
go
you into
anywhere.
a play group too. I think that's kind of the one thing that like the Pacific Northwest doesn't have a huge role in, and I'd love to see you kind of maybe join a higher competitive scene and kind of get your reps in. Speaking of new fans, did you get any fandom or kind of like approached at all during your top eight run? Did you find that more people are kind of like reaching out and kind of giving you some accolades afterwards?
Yeah, the Portland community has been amazing. Like, I feel like I've gotten accolades from everyone. I go a lot of Nexus nights almost every week, and I just everyone's support has been amazing. I think after game 8 of day 1, I was so locked in. And then the game ended, and I turned around, and it's literally like 15 people surrounding me, behind me, just watching me play. And I was like, oh my God, like, thanks, guys. Like, and then everyone just started cheering. It was amazing.
God, that's huge, man. Let's head into a couple of rapid fire questions. We know that the biggest conversation right now is this Infinite Lux LeBlanc combo. Have you had a chance to kind of check that out? What are your thoughts on it? Do you think it's going to be tier one? Do you think people are just kind of figure it out pretty early? What's your take on the LeBlanc Lux combo?
I haven't tried it out yet. I did watch a few videos of it. I'm gonna try it out in Rift Atlas, but I don't really have it. I don't think it's consistent. I think maybe you just take in one card against it and you're fine.
I know there's a big frustration with how long it takes people to play that deck right now, with people not understanding how to like fully get through the combo. So most people are just like, why is my opponent taking 20 minutes during their turn? But
Yeah,
aside from that, what do you think is the most overrated champion in Riftbound right now?
most overrated. Probably I was gonna say Draven, but he's not overrated anymore. So mm, probably LeBlanc. She really fell off. You know, you just died to 3 Gust in a Starbound, and you just lose. It's like,
Yeah.
okay,
It's crazy how much Gus just really sets the LeBlanc player back. Like they want to get ahead so fast, and you're just like, nope, nope.
yeah.
If you could buff one card and nerf one card, what card would you like to see get a little bit better, and what card are you just tired of seeing or
Oh,
kind of
dude,
want to see taken away?
I would buff Aurora just so that card gets banned. I think it's so boring playing Aurora, like playing against and playing Aurora, that like just buff that card and just get it out of here, man.
Just get it
Um,
out.
Love to
yeah,
see
it
that.
should have been banned. Like I regret wasting like $90 buying Aurora just so I can play Silver, and then find out it's so boring to play.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
it's
all
not.
those sorry, Justin, for all
No, you're
those
good.
betting fans out there, uh what legend wins the next regional qualifier? Who we putting our money on? From Bao himself.
Hmm. Master Yi is pretty good. I put my money on Master Yi.
Yeah, I got money on Diana or Master Yi. I think those are two of the, especially if there's like a really good pilot behind it. I know Diana, I think probably has a higher ceiling because you
Mhm.
just don't see a lot of players piloting it.
It's
Um,
so hard to play. You
yeah,
gotta
but
know your deck so well.
yeah, but like you said earlier, like Yi is just so consistent, so safe. Just strap on the helmet, and you're probably gonna have a good time.
Yeah, just mulligan for those punch first.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, it's interesting. We've been seeing a lot of Yees running one primal strength, and Corey and I have been testing it quite a bit. And I think it's actually really, really good tech. We were interviewing Houses Are Big recently, and he was talking a little bit about that. It's like most people are planning for the punch first, right? And so they're like, oh, I can get over 5 might. That's totally fine. But then you play the primal strength, and it's +7, and they're just like, I didn't account for that. So I think that's a really good addition to a lot of these Yees deck.
Does he side it out against green decks? Because you can just defy it. Like that was my first reaction when I saw
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, that's one of the only downsides to that card versus like Punch First, right? It's like Punch First can't get defied versus like Primal can. So it is something he talks about. We should have that episode out probably tomorrow at some point, but he talks a little bit about that in depth. So do you have any favorite like tournament snacks or any tournament rituals? Do you like to, like Coco Lopez says, he likes to pack and unpack his bag specifically at a match, and if he takes his deck box out before he takes his play mat out, then it like feels bad. Like, do you have any kind of those things? And then, what's your favorite snack food?
Yeah, I'm a man of ritual, so really superstitious. So I have to pack my deck the exact same way. I go to the bathroom right after my match. I piss in the same stall. Um, and my favorite snack, they had banana bread there, so that saved me at the Vancouver Regional.
but banana bread at the tournament? Let's go. I actually
Risky
like
move.
that.
Risky move, but delicious and filling.
So good.
Yeah, it's so good, super fueling. And just to kind of wrap us up, Bao, I just wanted to say thank you so much for hanging out with us. Do you have any shout outs before we get wrapped up? Anybody that gave you any special attention while you were at the tournament, before the tournament? Anybody that helped you get prepped? The floor is yours. The lights are on. Just let it fly, man.
Hey,
And
yeah, thanks.
don't forget to drop your socials as well, so we can get all these new fans kind of
Yes.
following your path here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, cool. Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. And also, just shout out to, the local LGSs, Orbs, Capes, Contrarian, and everyone that goes to them. All been great. And most of them were able to show up at the tournament. So they were there just hanging out, supporting stuff. So love everyone there. Yeah, that's that.
Love that, man. Well, that's going to wrap up our conversation here with Baobaoaz. He took top 8 at Vancouver playing Irelia. Huge thanks for joining us and sharing your journey into Riftbound, your experience with that Vancouver, and kind of giving some of the players an insight to your run. It's super happy for us, at least as fans of yours, to be able to see you make a deep run. We were hopeful that we would get some TV time to see your match, but unfortunately Riot decided to panel to the other game. So
You hate Irelia players?
Yeah, very much so. Well, I hope to see you again here in competitions. I'd love to see a little bit of life coming out of the Pacific Northwest. I think we have a strong region. We just don't get a lot of representation. So as always, thanks for listening to Rift with Friends. That's Bao. That's Corey. I'm Justin. And we'll see you on the Rift.